Welcome to another episode of the Online Hustle podcast. Today we have Matt Costan. Give us a wave, Matt.
Hey.
He's from Product Opinion. And yeah, really without much of an introduction, I just think let's get into it. I just wanted to get Matt on today so that we could talk about kind of his expertise in the world of e-commerce, what he thinks is happening right now, what changes sellers should potentially prepare for, and just maybe some pitfalls as well that a lot of people are falling into, how they can avoid that, and how people can, in the end, make more profit. That's what everybody's here for, right? So, I think just to start off with, Matt, just for people who don't already know you, and I'm sure that's not very many people if they're in this world anyway. But yeah, if you could just give us a little bit about your background, give us a brief intro, your expertise, and I suppose there's a question like, what drew you to the industry in the first place?
Yeah, totally. So first and foremost, I am an Amazon seller. So I've been selling, I like to say before it was cool. So like 10 plus years. And where I really got ahead was, just doing research, like understanding what people actually want, what actually resonates with people. And that came through doing Kickstarter projects, that sort of thing. And then eventually, looking at the options that were on the market, there were a few things that I wanted to do better. And that's what kind of led to Product Opinion. And in a nutshell, Product Opinion lets you basically test with real shoppers and figure out what resonates best so you can sell more.
So when you were first launching, what was like one of the big things that you first came up against that you thought was like potentially difficult to get over?
Yeah, so I feel like what sellers kind of fall into the trap too is they fall in love with the product and they fall in love with the idea. And what I've come to learn is you want to fall in love with the data. Don't fall in love with the product, right? Yes, it's your baby. And yes, you always have those rose-colored glasses when you're looking at it. But to be really successful, you got to take like almost a third-party approach to what can be done to make things better, and just understanding that you have blinders as a creator actually goes a long way to making it more successful.
Well, I guess it's one of those things. I mean, no matter how much you like the product, if nobody else likes it, then they're not going to buy it, and you're not going to buy your own dogs. You don't have a business there. So no. It makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. And one really cool example, one of our clients that uses Product Opinion, she actually makes a really cool shower cap. She has a patent for it. It's amazing. It's like her life's work. She really went to all out to try to make it happen. Yeah. Now, here's an interesting question that I want to see if you might be able to answer. So one of the features of the shower caps was that it was reversible.
Okay.
Why do you think a shower cap needs to be reversible?
Because after you've used it a couple of times, maybe it gets greasy?
Right? Like, okay, so that's a decent answer. But what was interesting, like on her listing, she tried to explain this reversible stuff and nobody understood it, right? And
you have to let me, because I don't understand it now.
Exactly, right. And one of the big lessons is like when you confuse shoppers, they are ready to hit that back button and look at the 10,000 other results, right? Like sure. Immediately. Yeah. Makes sense, right? So one interesting thing that she did is she ran some qualitative testing through Opinion videos to understand, what's going on. And like everybody was like, I don't understand why it's reversible. Turns out it's reversible because there's leave-in treatments where you want to keep your hair wet, right? But she didn't explain that. Like in her head, she knew it. She's like, oh, this is common sense. Everybody should know this.
She would think that other people would like read between the lines a little bit.
Exactly. So, and that's their big lesson. People do not read between the lines. You need to be explicitly clear of what you offer, what the feature is. And in some cases, if it's too confusing, don't even mention it, at least early on, like in the first couple images. Save it for the A+ content if you got to go into more detail. But yeah, really interesting example where she updated the images. She explained it much better with an infographic, and her conversion rate got an immediate increase just from understanding where shoppers were confused.
Okay. And in that, then you just mentioned about opinion videos. So again, just to anybody who's like not already in the know, just give us a bit of a rundown of kind of how that works, what the services are and what the like why and how somebody would implement that into the business, and what sort of uptick are they expected to see from that?
Yeah, totally. So opinion videos in a nutshell is where we actually record a shopper's screen as they answer your questions out loud. So you can send them your own Amazon listing, a competitor's, or even a search result page. And then out loud, they'll answer questions like, if it's a search page, which one would you click into and why? Or if it's like your Amazon listing, you could ask them like, why wouldn't you buy this? Or why wouldn't somebody else buy this? And then you're basically reading their mind and uncovering their objections. And we're the only platform that does this. And to me, this is like the most important aspect because you're getting context in the answer. So it's not just written like, oh, I don't like this, whatever. You hear people being like, hey, I love this. I hate that. This is a deal breaker. Basically that you get the emotion behind it, which is something that, especially with AI, we don't get that kind of emotion and actual specifics behind it. So that's what opinion videos are in a nutshell. And then that's more qualitative data, obviously kind of like focus group. And then if you want to get into the quantitative, then we have opinion polls where we can get shoppers to actually vote on certain options and then explain why in a written sentence, why they chose what they chose. And there's a lot of nuance to that, but in a nutshell, you'll get the full picture. You'll be able to do qualitative along with the quantitative, which makes you that much more powerful as a brand.
I see that. And you mentioned about AI then. I think one thing that I've experienced personally is like when I am talking to AI, it has such a tendency to like glaze you, and it just provides you with like positive feedback unless you explicitly tell it to be like really harsh with you, which is a bit of an issue, especially if you're then testing products because you go, hey, what do you think about this? And then it's like, oh, it's amazing, it's fantastic, it's this, it's that. And all of that is kind of behind the programming of AI. It's trying to keep you on that platform so that you engage with it more. So I can see why that could be a potential blocker for people who are just using AI. Maybe they don't recognize like some of the key issues maybe that the product has, or maybe AI says it's really good, but it's not thinking about it on a human level. So
yeah, so and totally agree. I mean, obviously, I love AI. I'm all in for AI, and you can do a ton of research. I mean, obviously, it can scrape customer reviews and it can consolidate, but the AI is really feeding you the most sometimes vague and kind of like the most common denominator stuff. Versus when you actually talk to people who are irrational, emotional, sometimes not logical. You get a feeling for what actually resonates with people, and sometimes you just get ideas that I mean, and don't get me wrong, AI is insane for ideas, but sometimes you get like more. So, for example, like I got an idea for a patent based on a product. It's a generic product that I've had for years, and it came from a shopper just being like, "Hey, why don't you do this?" And it was so obvious to him, and it wasn't something that was like obvious to me probably anyone else, and it actually turned out to be a good idea to apply for a patent for.
So how does it work? Do you get to choose the control group, or are they completely random? Or
yeah, so something that we've done differently with Product Opinion is we allow you to choose advanced targeting, and we don't charge extra for it. So you can pick people who shop in specific categories on a regular basis. You can pick obviously basic demographics like age, sex, employment, all that kind of stuff. But then it also goes into the advanced details. And one unique aspect is we won't nickel and dime. So if you need this specific demographic, you can choose that, and the cost is the same. Your poll doesn't jump up 4 to 5 times in pricing just because you're choosing the people you want to take it.
All right. Sounds pretty good. One thing that I was just thinking about there is like maybe taking a bit of a step back, like rather than just an opinion for a minute, but like in your experience at the moment, like what are some of the things which you see are actually producing results for people versus like maybe what's something that's overhyped? Like that we spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, you and I, and you get all of these people who are self-proclaimed gurus and people who sell courses and things like that. So some of that can be a bit noise in the industry. But what do you see are some things that are maybe actually producing results versus that noise, that fluff that we're trying to avoid here.
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, with AI, you can now iterate super quickly. So in terms of figuring out which main image is going to get you the click, I mean, we can list some tools and resources. One that I've worked with is keploscraper.com. You literally put in your main image and it spits out like 10 other main image options that are like almost pixel perfect, right? There might be some massaging needed. So for me, just being able to iterate so quickly with AI is super important, and it just allows you to test more stuff and get to the result faster. In terms of LinkedIn noise, yeah, there's always going to be noise. I mean, I'm all for checking it out. I would just say, every entrepreneur has shiny object syndrome. We know this. It's like, hey, I created an AI agent that's making me $20,000 on autopilot. DM and comment below for the step-by-step, right? So it doesn't hurt to kind of play with that and see what's up. But I would just say limit your time, like actually put in a specific time block. Like, hey, maybe I'll go exploring and learning for these 2 hours, hour, whatever it is on this day, but kind of set a parameter around it. Otherwise, it's
you
like
just a rabbit hole. You just keep spiraling and
it's a black hole, and I'm guilty of that. I've dove into everything that things that come up right away. Like they just announced ChatGPT 5, and it's like there's so many things. And with that being said, too, I would say don't worry about learning all the platforms. Like there's so many different platforms, different everything. I would say get really good at least one of them, like try to specialize in it. And if it is just OpenAI, ChatGPT, that's fine, right? But don't feel the need that you have to master Perplexity and Claude and GenSpark and all the other ones that pop up and are the next big thing, right? But that'd be my advice from it.
Okay, so you talk about different platforms, but how about different selling platforms? So let's say and you could only pick one. You could only sell on Amazon or you could only sell on Shopify. Which would you do and why?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, it's both, right? I would always, if you're just getting started, I mean, I still think Amazon is a good place to get started. It's not as easy as it was.
As it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I mean, it comes with the traffic, right? So and obviously the product selection is very important on Amazon as well too. You can't sell generic Me Too stuff. You have to do the testing to figure out you're creating something that resonates. But what I'd say is once you start getting some momentum on Amazon, having your own Shopify and having your own site is also a must-have. Like it's your home base, and there's an echo and a halo effect of, I don't advertise my Shopify site all that much. I probably should, and it still gets a ton of sales just from existing, right? So definitely both. I feel like whatever, but there are certain channels that are better than others depending on the product as well.
I tend to find that people who've got a very unique product, or maybe they're very good at their own branding and they've been generating, if they've got anything that's maybe viral, then those tend to be really good candidates to just go straight onto Shopify and then maybe use Amazon as a backup. People who are, in their website that are coming direct from TikTok or direct from Instagram or that sort of direct traffic to a website, that's a key winner. But then if you've got something which maybe people are not going to shop direct, then still being visible on Amazon is obviously, people are going on Amazon because they're shopping for a specific product, but maybe they're not intrinsically connected to your specific version of that product. So that they do kind of work a bit differently. I get what you mean.
Yeah, and to that point too, I feel like different products for different platforms will do better. So obviously on TikTok Shop, not everything goes viral, right? A lot of people think it's the gold rush of hey, I put it up, I'm going to make gazillions of dollars. That could happen. And I know some brands that have had some success and luck with that, but it's typically the products on TikTok Shop that are more demonstratable. It's it has that kind of viral thing to it where it's hey, you want to share it with someone, versus if you're selling brooms, mops, or whatever it is, you're going to have a hard...
Yeah, it's not quite as sexy, is it? People are not... That's not something that you're going to scroll through on your feed on a night. Oh, this is a really nice broom. I might get that one.
But that being said, there's also something to be said about can you take what I a lot of success, and not even just on products, but just in marketing, is how do you pattern interrupt? How do you do stuff differently that stands out so you actually get remembered? And Seth Godin talks a lot about it in the Purple Cow book. But essentially, it's like, well, hey, is there a way to make a mop or broom like viral? Can you do something crazy with it? I'm like, I mean, Dyson is a whole other ball game of product. But I was watching they just released a vacuum, for example, that's like the size of a broom. So like the whole like
Like the
the
handle
air,
part.
yeah, like the fan, the canister, everything is kind of like contained in a little stick. And it's like, wow, like that has legs where like I'm talking about it now because it was so cool.
Free market, all done Dyson.
Not that Dyson needs it, right? But what I also like what he did too when he was announcing it on his like keynote, the product was actually always on stage, but nobody realized, and he kind of just like pulled it from like the structure thing that was there. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, this was the product, and everyone's like, whoa, right? So yeah, like thinking about ideas of how to make things interesting, how to make people want to talk about your product versus just just existing, right?
Yeah. Well, I suppose they've done it quite well as well, though, because of people flock towards their hair dryers, like the air wrap thing, and then the fans. They are, like you said, I guess it is a different. It's a very it's a ubiquitous product. You get fans everywhere. You get vacuums everywhere. You get hair dryers everywhere. But they've done it where it's slightly different, and they have kind of made it sexy in a way.
They take the generic and turn it into something more interesting. And and like there's and in terms of like on the topic of like just surprising and delighting customers, I can give you an example that I did that worked really well, and it actually should work for most sellers too. So one of the products that I sold was a mosquito repellent bracelet, and it came in a pack of it was advertised as a pack of 5, but then when the customer actually got it, it said the packaging was different, and it said, surprise, you got the 6-pack, the bonus 6-pack or whatever. So this was all by design. Like all the packaging had that on it. And it was just basically meant to make people feel good when they got the product, right? And this was super cool because then people started writing reviews about like, oh, there's a secret bonus and this and that. So they would talk about it a little bit more. It gave them a reason to leave a review. And in any way, shape, or form, you can like, get the customer involved with that and make them feel like you give them a reason to talk, then they're that much more likely to do so.
And everybody loves a freebie.
Right.
So
yeah.
Why the hell not? Just throw it at them.
And I feel like that's super rare, right? Like most like good customer service is super rare. It should be the norm, and a lot of companies claim they're amazing at customer service, but I don't know. Like I feel like that's not true, and that's something that I do with all my companies. I can give you another example of that too. I released so another product I work on is an actual label printer. So it's a business to business kind of product, and it was launched with Windows only. And even though we mentioned that it was Windows only, we didn't have the drivers for Mac or whatever. We had a customer that bought it just assuming that it would work for Mac. So technically, customer was wrong, but fine. He was really disappointed. He really wanted it for Mac, and instead of just being like, no, can't do it, we looked into, well, how hard would it be to get the Mac driver? And through some magic with AI and this and that, we actually ended up in a relatively short period of time being able to get the Mac driver for the printer. And I just sent them a free one. I was like, hey, like, thanks. You gave us the idea to do this. We ended up doing it. And that guy's going to be a customer for life, right? Like it's, hey, I got this free thing. It's a couple $100 worth. He's happy, and he's going to tell other people. So
I was going to say, yeah, he's also going to tell his friends as well. If anybody else needs that, he'd be like, hey, no, you must get this one because, and then explain the story as well. And, it snowballs from there, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And doing it without the thought of like, short-term money, but long-term gain is a different, different ballpark when you're dealing with that as well.
So you're talking a lot about things that people are doing different that makes them stand out. But what do you think is one thing that you see a lot of sellers doing that really isn't working at the moment?
Yeah. So So a lot of sellers still just kind of copy other sellers. So they see like what, the best sellers in their category are doing. So say, for example, I don't know, you're selling like a hockey stick and like all the hockey sticks on Amazon are positioned left to right. They just assume that they need to do that same thing. And of course, some categories, there's standards and you have to do things the way Amazon tells you, like shoes, for example, are very specific and whatnot. But, trying to copy the bestseller to try to get to be the bestseller isn't going to get you there. You have to do something unique. You have to do something different. And obviously that's where testing can come into play as well.
So do you often just advise people to maybe go with, I don't know, like different product colors that maybe they weren't expecting? So, I don't know. I'm just imagining like shampoo bottles. You would get a lot of shampoo bottles that will tend to come in sort of whites, light greys, creams, sort of clinical colors. So if then you were a new brand and you were launching a bright orange one, it's going to be like, whoa, what's that one? And it's going to stand out a lot more. And it's probably going to garner a lot more clicks because it looks different.
That's a big, color is a huge part of it. We have tons and tons of data and case studies even of like typically darker packaging does better. And it kind of makes sense because on Amazon, it's a white background. So if you can have like a darker package that kind of fills out that space, that real estate area that you get, it'll get more attention. There was one particular brand that we did a bunch of testing with, and they doubled their click-through rate by changing their packaging from primarily white to like a dark, deep bluish purple. And it was and literally double. And this was a brand that was doing tens of thousands of dollars, right? And it did so well that he ended up rebranding all of his packaging to match, just because like, the numbers are the numbers, right? There's a lot of fun stuff that you can do. Another cool tip, if you want to just kind of like, get a head start, you can actually, take a picture of the search results. So say, for example, you take a picture, you search shampoo, and you take a picture of all the shampoo bottles. Throw that into ChatGPT and be like, hey, this is my current competition. What can I do differently to stand out in this search result, right? And I have a prompt for this and I can share it with you guys, but it's a simple prompt. It's basically like, show me what everyone else is doing and then show me how I can differentiate. ChatGPT will go in there, look at all the images, and then start giving you ideas of how to do something different based on your competition. Another big point to remember is like the success of your click-through rate is relative. So it doesn't matter how pretty your main image is. It doesn't matter how pixel perfect it is. What matters is how it's different, how it catches the eye relative to all your competitors. So it's very important that it's category based and not just say, a laundry list of best practices to put it on there.
Okay. So find something that makes you differentiate and research the hell out of that, and then get in touch with you and see if it works in real life, because you can trust AI a little bit, but not too much. That's what I'm getting from that.
Yeah. AI is directional, right? Like you'll get some, you can get amazing feedback from AI, but to get hyper specific feedback and from real people still goes a long way, because like we said earlier, like there's emotions, there's illogical stuff, there's things behind reasoning that AI can't do yet, but hey, maybe they will.
Optimum word with that, as you mentioned, like the release of GPT-5. I don't know if you saw the promotional video that OpenAI did with that as well, where they were saying that now that you can just code games, and within 5 minutes, like you get a little snake game that comes up and stuff. Crazy where that's going.
You can make your own Rubik's Cube in a few lines of code and get it to solve it, and like it's wild. It's absolutely wild.
So you were talking about like brands scaling from like tens of thousands of dollars, presumably per month. But then what is the difference for you for a brand that is, 6-figure, 7-figure brand compared to one that just like fizzles out? What's the key differences between the two in your experience?
Yeah, I feel like the brands that do it well understand that their customers can be their biggest evangelists. So involving the customers as much as possible with the brand is massive. Um, I think people underestimate how great word of mouth is. Like it, getting someone to message them like, "Hey, this is amazing," is so much like less expensive and much more effective than any ad or any spend on PPC, that sort of thing. So yeah, just making sure that you make your customer and ask for referrals, like have systems and processes in place so that you take that customer along a journey. And obviously it's if you figure out who your ideal customer is, it's coming up with products that solve problems for that ideal customer, right? And then if you think of it that way, then it's like, these products are just going to help them along their journey as they go. A lot of the bigger brands will also ask their own customers for feedback about like next product launches and color options or whatever it might be. So I've seen that, and that's something that I've always wanted, and we do have in Product Opinion, where it's free. It doesn't cost anything extra. You can actually ask your own customers for feedback on pretty much anything. And what that does is when you ask someone for their opinion, it makes them feel good. You're building that goodwill, because it's like, oh, you value my opinion? Great, fantastic. So they feel closer to the brand. They're more likely to recommend the brand. And then the other interesting part is we have something built in where after they do a pull, you can actually direct them to your Shopify, to your Amazon, to any link, and say, hey, as a quick reward and as a thank you for doing it, here's a 20% off coupon or whatever it might be. So now you're also making money on getting getting feedback from your customers as well. And that's just one example of making like testing as a part of the brand's DNA. So like just kind of integrating it into the funnel.
Well, even just going back to the other brand that you mentioned earlier that was giving away X when they said they were selling 5, like that in itself, like that is going to generate so many natural reviews, and people are then going to talk about that. Maybe it's going on Reddit. You're then going to show higher on your Amazon search page because you've got those reviews behind you. So it's little things like that I suppose all add up as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Any opportunity to surprise and delight, do a little bit extra, include a bonus. Like sometimes like for example, in that case with the mosquito repellent bands, like the cost for an extra band was like negligible, like cents, right?
Yeah.
So it didn't cost anything, and it made a lot of it made people talk. So if
Makes an impact.
Makes an impact, absolutely. So if you can like. Even, for example, I try to do that with my travel products. So, and you can actually do this, and I've seen this being done with other products as well, too. You basically ask the supplier to put a serial number on each and every one of the products. And it takes a little coding, but I mean, now with AI, you could probably do it in 2 seconds. But you can make a system where people register that serial number. And if the product's ever lost, so on the product, you say, hey, if found, go to this website and enter this code, right? So someone finds a lost product, they go to the website, they type in the code, and because it was registered to the initial customer, they get an email alert saying, hey, the product's found, and then you don't lose it. So for example, I do luggage tags. So if you lose the luggage, each of the luggage tags has a serial number. Someone can see, hey, this luggage is lost. Let me put the serial number into this website. Then automatically the owner gets an email for it being found, right? And it's such a win-win-win because now you're getting customers' information because they have to register the product to begin with. The finder also gets a reward, and usually I make the reward like a gift card to my Shopify. So now they're enticed to buy something as well, and they saw firsthand how it actually works. So lots of cool things that you can do. And this works. I mean, obviously I'm in the travel space, so it works, but I've seen this done on like headphones. I've seen it done on like anything portable, anything that can kind of get
lost.
Yeah, exactly.
Challenge me. I'm so bad for it, and no matter what it is, how big it is, I will probably lose it. So maybe after this, I should go and have a little shop on your Shopify and see what.
Done.
See what
I'll send you
yeah,
something. No problem. And another example that came to mind too, which was really cool. So another brand, they sell furniture, and furniture is a really tough category because your returns are crazy. Like people don't like assembling stuff, and it's easily damaged, that sort of thing. So something that they did was actually in the instruction manual, they included a bundle of jelly beans. So it's like halfway through, it's like, hey, have a break, have some jelly beans on us, chill out, and then continue to assemble it, right? So imagine, like, who is expecting that? Nobody.
yeah, just put a smile on your face when you're not expecting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would do fun stuff like that too. Like at one point I was selling barcode scanners, so handheld scanners. And then in the instruction manual, I would put like, funny things that instruction manuals are dull and boring. So anything you can do to like put a smile on someone's face. Because, if you make them feel a certain way, they're going to associate that with your brand.
Yeah, I get that. So when you are working with a lot of sellers, like when they are testing their products, what feedback do you think is super useful for them, and what would you say is kind of more like vanity data? What would you say is more like, oh, this is going to make you feel good, but maybe there's no substance behind it?
Yeah, that's fair. Obviously you'd have to take things with a grain of salt. And there's always like, when you're testing, there's always like a bell curve, right? You'll get feedback that like, top percentage is like amazing feedback. Like, you would not have thought of it yourself, that sort of thing. Middle is kind of like, yeah, it makes sense. And then maybe the lower end feedback is like, maybe not. So, and that's just the nature, because people come from different walks, different everything. But
Or you just catch people on a bad day as well.
fair. But there's also like value in the lesser valuable feedback, because then you're also understanding like what people aren't getting. So it's like, so a lot of brands will have, oh, like this guy didn't understand my product, his feedback is a write-off. But then when you think about it, it's like, well, maybe he is from a different walk of life.
Understand the product as well, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, what's the reasoning and rationale behind? Like, why couldn't he understand it? Is it his fault for not understanding it, or is it my fault for not explaining it clearly?
No.
Exactly.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of, I could use an example too. We have some, not always, or not often, I should say, but there's some brand owners that really do have this ego, where, one particular one that comes to mind, he was like, oh, product opinion's terrible. All the shoppers just said that my product was trash. And like, he was really upset. He was really, really angry. And I'm like, okay.
Maybe you're the problem, bro. Or maybe your product is maybe the issue. Maybe it's...
You got it.
But
Yeah.
like you said earlier, it's hard for them to stomach that, because, if they've put time, dollars into it, maybe they've done research and development, maybe it is their own private label, maybe they've helped, create it, maybe they've named it after a family member or something like that. And then for people to just rinse it in front of you, it's like, it feels like a personal attack, I'm sure.
100%. You got it. You absolutely, you nailed it. And yeah, and so he shared the test, and I'm looking at the product, and I'm like, dude, like, they had some valid points, my friend, right? So it was, and he got it. We had some conversations. I think he got it. But yeah, people can take it, but I feel take it as a personal offense. But I feel, yeah, the most successful entrepreneurs, and that's something that I'm trying to learn as well too, is like, yeah, there's signal and there's noise, but then there's also you also have to realize that you're biased. You have that kind of that those blinders on. So yeah, definitely a lesson there. You got to get the ego out of the way.
So when people like that are doing these tests, are they tending to like shop around quite a lot? And I don't know, in your experience, well, which would you say are like, why are most like A/B tests BS? Like, why do you think that a lot of companies that provide maybe similar services or using AI and things like that, why are most of them just giving you maybe like not very strong results that you can base an opinion off, or like base the next decision for your business off?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that's one of the reasons why I started Product Opinion, because a lot of the testing previously, and the testing that Amazon sellers might be used to, is testing things in a vacuum. So it's like, hey, here's option A, here's option B, which one would you choose and why? And that's fine for testing concepts, but that's very different than what actually might take place on Amazon when you have your competitors, you have a title, you have pricing, you have a star rating system, all of that. So something that we've done differently is a 4-step or 5-step SOP where it systematically goes through all the variables and makes sure what you're testing will actually give you a result, right? So part of that is, just high level, like step 1 is that qualitative. So not just guessing at which concepts and designs will do better, it's actually validating with data, like what are shoppers actually saying that might make sense to create a concept with. The next step is doing a baseline test. So taking what you have existing and comparing it to what's actually in the marketplace today. And that's including star ratings, reviews, whatever it might be. Because again, your click-through rate isn't the pretty picture. It's how you stand out versus the competitors. So you have to do a test that shows the competitors with it as well. Then the next step is testing concepts. So this is the traditional A/B testing. Like now that we got some baseline data, and then we also got some qualitative data on what's resonating with shoppers, we come up with new main images. We do that A/B test on the new main images. We figure out which one's the winner. Then once we have a winning new concept, we run that baseline again, and we make one change. We change the main image. So we run it just the same way we did, but we change the main image. The other important aspect that we do that nobody else does is we can actually exclude shoppers from a previous test.
Okay.
And that's
what's the benefit of that?
Super important, because if you do a baseline test and people see the options, and then you ask them to do another test and they've already seen the options before, they get a bias. Exactly. Yeah. They got the bias. So to me, that's like table stakes for testing. You have to have the ability to remove people from an audience that has seen your test before.
You want a fresh set of eyes on it.
Exactly. And then what you do is you compare that baseline test to that new test that has the new main image. If you have more clicks, you have a higher click-through rate on that test, great indication that it'll do better on real life on Amazon. And then the last step is, maybe throw it into Amazon's tool, or in some cases, you can just launch with it on Amazon. And we have a crazy case study where someone spent $450 on all these tests. So not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. Their results were wild. So they added about $19,000 US. They're a UK company, so the conversion, we have to do the conversion on it, but $19,000 US per month with this new main image. So they spent $450, and now they're making an extra almost $20,000 every single month. That
return on investment sounds pretty good. Yeah.
Right? But a lot of sellers, they make the mistake of, inherently everyone's like, oh, I got to spend more on PPC. I got to spend more on ads. I got to spend more on that. But they don't realize the gold mine that they're sitting on if they've never tested something. Oh my goodness. Like there is so much money that's being left on the table just by running those first few tests that it's, I think people are usually pleasantly surprised. Like if you follow that process, you'll be pleasantly surprised with the results.
Okay. So when you're doing the changes between every part, so again, let's say that you've got a shampoo bottle and you have a white one. So rather than obviously creating new product images, presumably you're going to throw that shampoo bottle into AI and say, hey, just generate an image of this, but let's do it in orange and see how that comes out in the test as well. So
basically, yeah. So if your original bottle is white, then you've done some tests before where, say, for example, you do opinion video where people are looking at search results and they're like, oh, this red one really stands out because of the color and this orange one stands out. And most of them are the beige, white, gray, whatever. then it's like, okay, hey, you know what? Color is important. I'm going to make a variation based on color. There might be other things too where, oh, the packaging on this one stands out and this and that. So you make the concepts based on the original data versus what a lot of people do is, let's just throw everything at it to the wind and see which sticks, which is also okay. But then you do want to put some data behind it as well.
I was going to say as well, if you make too many changes at once, then you probably don't know which one was successful and which one wasn't. So you can't really, it makes more sense to just do small changes bit by bit and then run another test so that you can figure out exactly which one is the most optimal, because then maybe if you make another change to it, maybe it becomes less successful. So,
you got it. Yeah, like one variable at a time, right? And that's the idea behind this main image SOP is literally we're changing just the main image from baseline to the new test, and to see relatively speaking, does our click share go up or down?
Okay, that's fair. So, top level, different topic. How much do you think that AI has changed the way that you work over the past year? We keep sprinkling it into conversation anyway, so I just wanted to really get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, things that have taken much longer or much shorter. I mean, we've even developed our own. So we actually have our own AI tool as well, and we've actually submitted a patent for it. It's one that lets you create variations. We call it Variationizer. It's variationizer.com. It's inside of Product Opinion as well too. And it basically lets you create AI images, but in layers. So instead of just one solid image that you then have to kind of like massage and iterate, it'll actually create the elements as separate pieces that you can then change
Pull
and
up, move around.
Yeah, exactly. So we're one of the first, I think, to put that together. And the whole idea behind it is basically, make iterations faster so that you can test more. Because the more testing you do, the more, it's the small wins that compound over time. And the easier it is to make these variations, the more you can test.
That makes sense. So besides Variationizer?
Variationizer, yeah.
Variationizer. What other AI tools are you using? What other AI tools should people who are listening be using? It's one of those things, isn't it? It's like KFC's 11 herbs and spices. Like, we can't just give them all away. Like, I know that some of this is probably a bit secretive, but anything that you're willing to share.
100%, yeah. So we also have a cool, it's a private clicks and conversion club group. And like a lot of the talk there is AI, just because talk in general is all about AI. I know Jay's talking a lot about VO3 from Google for video creation. It's insane. One of the ones I'm a fan of is genspark.ai. So we also did a State of Shoppers 2025 where we basically asked 1,000 shoppers multiple questions. They got 47 questions, I think it was, each. And if you multiply that all out, like if a seller tried to do that on another platform or even our platform, it would be over like $47,000 to actually put this report together and asking all these questions. So what we were able to do is feed GenSpark all of this data. So literally, it's over 47,000 data points. And it was able to put out a really nice report that basically outlined trends, outlined how often people use Amazon Rufus, for example. It's pretty cool that it was able to do that in a relatively short period of time. I'm sure ChatGPT 5 could do it as well too, but it did it in a way that was also like branding was on point, and it was very, very simple and easy to put forward. So that's a cool one that I like playing with.
Okay. It's funny you mentioned Rufus, because we were literally talking about that earlier on this week, and that to me is just a really interesting way of like looking at. We talk about this in the beginning, but like the future of e-com and like how you're going to get these AI tools, and even that with search, how it's sort of guessing what you actually mean without you necessarily saying the specific words. So if you're talking about things that you might take to the bathroom. Like, it may figure out maybe you need a shaver, maybe you need a rubber duck, maybe you need a towel. So it's then going to start showing you things which are sort of semantically related to your search term rather than the specific words. So I think gone are the days of people using just keyword stuffing to get as, to try and make their product seem as visible as possible. Like, people are going to have to adapt and change the way that they show their listings on Amazon if they want to stay ahead.
Totally, yeah. It uses, they just call it like common sense relations. And it's, people are searching. I mean, the trend of back years and years ago, people would do like 1-word, 2-word Google searches, right? Like credit card. And now it's like best credit card for travel, so on and so forth. So people are getting more descriptive with their searches anyway. But then now with the AI, it's all conversational. So the idea behind making your listing, you just want to think of it as like, how do I make the listing more conversational so that it's very easy for Rufus to pull out the details of it. So you want to think like adjectives, you want to think of like use case. There's actually a list of, I think it's 15 questions. And Una, I can put it in the show notes as well too. She has like a custom GPT that basically you throw in the product or you throw in your listing and it'll basically critique it based on the 15 questions that's powering Rufus. So stuff like, how is it used? What's it for? Can it be used in different locations? So instead of just a dress, it's like amazing dress for weddings or a night out. Like, and you go into the adjectives, you go into the specifics, because that's how people are going to be searching now. And that's how people are searching.
All right. Yeah, that's fair. So we were talking right at the beginning about, your experience, your background, and like being on Amazon 10 years ago, and how like different that is to today. Like, the idea of being on Amazon in 2015 and then comparing that to 2025 is a completely different landscape. So if you were to, let's say hypothetically, God forbid, that you lost everything, right? You lose everything right now, and you had to launch a new brand on Amazon this weekend. I know it's Friday afternoon for us, it's Friday morning for you, so we're not giving you much time, but what would you do first?
Oh, I love the question. Yeah. So, I mean, figure out first, and I think the most successful, it's not always true, but the most successful brands or products, they scratch an itch that the creator has, right? But that being said, I've met someone who has a brand, really successful, multi-million-dollar brand of like cat litter boxes, and he doesn't even own a cat, which is kind of crazy. But hey, if you can do that,
I think he would like use his own experience to help design that in a way that maybe fits the problem because he's dealt with it himself. But not having a cat, but then spending all the money on that wild, right?
But sometimes that works too, because it's like you see stuff in a different way that, say, a cat owner sees it. So
you can be objective rather than just be like passion driven. And as you said, like he's probably looking at it more from like a facts based view rather than, oh, this particular thing about cat litter boxes really frustrates me.
Yeah. So yeah, in his case, does it? Yeah, exactly. So his case was kind of like he goes to a friend's house or apartment or whatever, and he sees this box of crap on the floor, like literally, and he's like, "Why is that?" And if you have a cat, you get it, but if you don't have a cat, you're like, "This is ridiculous," right? So his idea was like, how do I make it look more like furniture? How do I make it look more blend into whatever aesthetic that you're doing? And that was his whole thing, and it took off, right? But that being said, I still think like if you have, like, I love traveling, got to do a lot more traveling when we didn't have the kids. But so that's why I went into travel products. I was just scratching an itch that I had. And what I would do first is, do the opinion video stuff where it's like send people to a search result, understand why people are clicking what they click. A lot of people will jump into like other tools like Helium 10, Jungle Scout for keyword data, which is great and fine. Obviously do that too. But the problem with that is that you get results that tens of thousands of other Amazon sellers who are trying to figure out which has the most volume, this and that, as well. So there's going to be a ton of competition there. So what I would do is figure out qualitatively as well what people are interested in, get ideas of how to differentiate. So, you can ask people like, if you were selling this, like, what would you want to see? What would you want different? Once you have the ideas of differentiation, AI is your friend. Go to ChatGPT, be like, hey, can you mock up this avocado chair or whatever it is, right? And once you have those concepts, then you're on your way to finding a supplier, being able to kind of communicate with them easier what you want, because you literally have the prototype design. Once you have the prototypes, you can also ask shoppers like, hey, here's my prototype of the product that I'm trying to come up with. Do you see anything wrong with it? Do you see, like, why wouldn't somebody buy this? How could this go wrong? And the level of feedback that you get from that is phenomenal. So a lot of it is iteration. And if you really have something interesting that's fairly unique, I would even think about a Kickstarter campaign. So getting people to give you money before you even have it produced. As long as you have the prototype, you can do it, and then you're on the you're good to go. Kind of did that.
I was speaking to one client, and they'd got this Kickstarter for this board game, but it was kind of like Monopoly, but you played as strippers and like went around different parts of the board and sort of like collected tariffs from the guys who were in there. Obviously, it was like, it got a few different seedy things, which I won't go into, but that was like a very niche thing. And because of that, like, there was a big social media presence behind it. And, the Kickstarter was getting a lot of traction because of that. Because, like, say it was like a unique product that people wanted, and they were prepared to wait for it because there's nothing else like it on the market.
And cool example, I love that as and it's just in that case, it's literally a small shift. Like, they didn't reinvent the wheel; they just kind of like figured, hey, can I make it for a different application? In a quick example on my side, like during COVID, like travel products literally went to zero. So this is a great question, because it's like, it happened. I literally had to start over from scratch. And what I did was I launched on Kickstarter. So, okay, COVID's happening. People were buying these brass keys that let you push buttons and open doors without having to use their hands. So, like, presumably less germs on your hands. And they were selling like crazy on Amazon and whatnot. But I figured, hey, how do I kind of differentiate? How do I make it different? And I came up with basically like the Swiss Army knife version that could fold in on itself. So now when you put this key thing back in your pocket, the germs are now not in your pocket. It's folded in, right? That little, small distinction, relatively easy to manufacture, although there was some issues. And it did almost $100,000 in less than 30 days. So, yeah, it's definitely possible to make things happen when you have that idea, and to figure out something that's unique and differentiates from what else is out there.
So, if you lost it all again, would you go back into travel?
Ooh, that's a good question. To be honest, I don't know. I feel like if I was starting another brand today, I think I would do furniture, but like super customizable furniture. So, for example, if you were buying a nightstand, you can dictate how many drawers, the feet, if you want wood feet, iron feet, whatever. And I think that would actually take off pretty well. So, like, highly customizable furniture. Something along those lines.
Modular design seems to be a big thing. Yeah. I've seen a lot of like modular design sofas where it's like a base that you can just use as a bed. You can take the arms off, and then you can use those as like maybe a pillow if you're just on a sofa, on a settee at a different time. And then like the back pieces you can just put them away if you want. So I think things like that have got multiple uses seem to be pretty popular as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, lots of... And it's interesting because, like, once you start doing, like, even for your own brand, like even for the travel, like when I do opinion videos for my travel brand, like, some brand owners have a hard time figuring out what product to do next. In my case, I have too many ideas and I don't know which
one to choose.
Which one to choose, yeah, because you get so much feedback that it's good, right? Because now you have more options to go by.
Yeah, it's a great problem to have.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, we're just about to come up to an hour, so I was going to wrap it up here. But hey, take this time to. Where do people find you? Where do people find you if they want to know more? Where do people find you if they want to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so easiest is productopinion.com. You can do a free trial. You'll get 20 shopper opinions for free. And you can also reach out direct, matt@productopinion.com with two T's. I'm also obviously on LinkedIn as well. Happy to connect and say hi over there too.
Nice. Hey, well, listen, thanks for coming on. It's been a pleasure. Definitely got some good insights. And that's just great to talk to you, so thanks again, Matt.
Thanks for having me. Always a good time.
All the best.
Cheers.